Long time ago, in the town of Oba, lived a man called Ikenna. He had a very beautiful daughter called Adaku, whose beauty was beyond measures. All the young men in the village wanted to marry her on the account of her beauty. But she refused all offers of marriage, in spite of all the numerous suitors that visited her parents to ask for her hand in marriage. Her parents wondered why she is turning all suitors down. And she said, none of the suitors are capable of loving her properly. And according to Adaku, all the suitors are old men and ugly. That she wants a young and handsome, strong man. I am Adaku, she said. I'm the most beautiful maiden in the whole of Oba town. And as such, I desire the best man, and the best man I will get. All the suitors don't fit the criteria of the kind of look I want my husband to have. Her parents continue to persuade her to choose a suitor from the suitors that have been visiting, because they were all rich men. But Adaku continued to disobey her parents. A skull who lived in the land heard of the beauty of Adaku and thought he would like to possess her. So he went about amongst his friends and borrowed different parts of the body from them, all of the best. From one he got a good head, another lent him a good body, a third one gave him strong arms, and the fourth one lent him a fine pair of legs. At last he was complete and was a very perfect specimen of a handsome young man. He looked the exact way Adaku had always wished for her husband to look. He then left the spirit land and went to Oba Market, where he saw Adaku and admired her very much. About this time, Adaku had already heard about the very handsome man that had been seen in the market, who was better looking than any of the natives of Oba town. She therefore ran to the market at once to see the man everyone spoke about. And immediately Adaku sighted the skull in his borrowed beauty, she fell instantly in love with him. She said to herself, "Oh wow, this is my kind of husband. This is the exact way I have always wished for any man who would marry me to look." Adaku went to the skull and was so delighted and invited him to her house. The skull was happy that his plans are actually working and went home with Adaku. And on his arrival, Adaku introduced the skull to her parents and told them, "Papa, Mama, this is the kind of man I have always wished to marry. He looks so handsome, handsome than all the suitors that have been visiting you to ask for my hand in marriage." The skull in his borrowed beauty saw how excited Adaku was about him, and he went further to ask for her hand in marriage, just like every other suitors that have been visiting their home. Adaku's parents refused, saying they can't give their daughter to a total stranger whom they knew from nowhere. Adaku, upon hearing this, became very angry, saying, "Mama, Papa, you have always wanted me to get married. All this while I have been turning down suitors because I don't like their look. But look at this handsome man. See how tall he looks. Mama, Papa, this is the kind of man I want to marry, and I must marry this man." And Adaku's parents said to their daughter, "You can't marry someone you don't know. Besides, you are just meeting him today. Why not get to know him very well before following him to his land. He is not a native of Oba. But Adaku was a very stubborn girl. She refused to listen to her parents. If only she knew that this handsome young man she is so in love with is actually a skull in the spirit land with borrowed beauty. Adaku's parents agreed at last after too much persuasion from Adaku, and they agreed to give their daughter's hand in marriage to the handsome man who had come to ask for her hand in marriage. He lived with Adaku for 2 days in her parents' house, and then said he wished to take his wife back to his town, which was far away from Oba. To this, Adaku readily agreed, as he was such a handsome man. But her parents tried to persuade her not to go. However, being very headstrong that she is, she made up her mind to go, and they started off together. After they had been gone a few days, the father consulted his juju man, who by casting lots very soon discovered that his daughter's husband belonged to the spirit land, and that she would surely be killed. Adaku's parents panicked upon hearing this, but they were helpless. They didn't know what to do at first, because they have no idea about the name of the town Adaku's husband has taken their daughter to. Meanwhile, after walking for several days and nights, Adaku and the skull crossed the border between the spirit land and the human town. Immediately they set foot in the spirit land. First of all, one man came to the skull and demanded for his legs, then another his head, and the next his body, and so on, until in a few minutes the skull was left by itself in all its natural ugliness. At this stage, Adaku was very frightened and wanted to run home, but the skull would not allow her, and he ordered her to go with him. When they arrived at the skull's house, they found his mother, who was a very old woman, quiet, incapable of doing any work, who could only creep about. Adaku tried her best to help her and cooked her food and brought water and firewood for the old woman, as she was already trapped there because the skull would not let Adaku go. The old woman was very grateful for this attention and soon became quite fond of Adaku. One day, the skull's mother told Adaku that she was really sorry for her, just that all the people in the spirit land were cannibals, and when they hear that Adaku, a human being, is in their town, they will come for her and kill her just so they can eat. The skull's mother then hid Adaku, and as she had looked after her so well, she promised she would send her back to Oba town as soon as possible, providing that she promised for the future to obey her parents. This Adaku readily consented to. Then the old woman sent for a very clever hairdresser in their town and made the hairdresser dress Adaku's hair in the latest fashion. She also presented her with anklets and other things on account of her kindness. She then made a juju and called the winds to come and convey Adaku to her home. At first, a violent wind came with thunder, lightning, and rain, but the skull's mother sent him away as unsuitable. The next wind came was a gentle breeze, so she told the breeze to carry Adaku to her mother's house and said goodbye to her. Very soon, the breeze deposited Adaku outside her home and left her there. When Adaku's parents saw their daughter, they were very excited. as they had for some months given her up as lost. The father spread soft skins on the ground from where his daughter was standing all the way to the house, so that her feet should not be soiled. Adaku then walked to the house, and her father called all the young girls who belonged to Adaku's company to come and dance, and the feasting and dancing was kept up for 8 days and nights, celebrating the return of Adaku from the spirit land. The father reported what had happened to the head chief of the town, and then the chief passed a law that parents should never allow their daughter to marry strangers who came from a far country or town. Then the father told his daughter to marry a friend of his, and she willingly consented and lived with him happily ever after. The moral of Adaku's story is simply saying to us that all that glitters is not gold. It's not everything that is attractive and beautiful we should be excited about. We should get to study and know that thing very well before taking it, before accepting it. Secondly, it is always important to follow the advice of our parents and also not to disobey our parents. Thank you so much for watching this story. I hope you learned a thing or two from Adaku's story. My name is Onye Stories and Folktales, and please, if you haven't subscribed, kindly click on the subscribe button, turn on the notifications so when I post more interesting videos, you'll get to see them. Bye-bye.
Subscribe to my channel.